I would encourage nurses to show up with authenticity. At the end of the day, being who you are, being how you are, accepting yourself is first and foremost priority. I think the second thing that I would say is enjoy the moment that you're in. No matter what it is, no matter how it is, whether it's with a patient, whether it's at home with family, enjoy being in that moment.
Hello, and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You podcast. And I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I am extremely excited today that I have someone that I totally look up to, and her name is Tanya. And I'm going to have Tanya tell you a little bit about herself. So welcome to the show, Tanya. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So it's actually pronounced Tanya.
Tanya.
So I'd like to make sure that I let everybody know, there are a lot of folks out there named Tanya, and I like to be distinct. So,
and I knew that, Tanya, and I said it anyway. So I apologize for that. Miss Tanya, go right ahead.
That's okay. So my name is Tanya Scott Cannady, and I have been a nurse for 30 years.
Wow.
This year. So it's hard for me to believe that it has been that long, but been a nurse for 30 years and have spent the majority of my career in women, infant, and children's health. Graduated undergrad from East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. I'm an East Coast girl. Born and raised Southern and all that great stuff, and went to school at ECU, and then went to graduate school at the University of Oklahoma, got a master's degree in multicultural organizational development, human relations. Spent about 6-7 years at the bedside and looked around one day and was just incredibly frustrated. And this was, about six years in, and was asked the questions specifically, what do you want to do? And said, I want to be a nurse, but I want to change things. I said, and I asked my assistant nurse manager, and I said, how do we do this? How do we fix this around here? I don't like my boss. She said, go back to school. I said, is that it? Okay. Get a master's degree and take her job. Oh, it's that easy. So I did. So I went back to school, got a master's degree, thinking I was going to come out and change the world. And, mostly because, there were people who didn't look like me in leadership. And I felt like I wasn't being heard, things that I felt like we needed to shift and change. And so I embarked on a journey, really, at that point, and spent time right after school, was recruited to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because there was, they needed skills of a consultant there. And so I went there. That was one of my first leadership jobs as a director of maternal child health, women, infant services. Had crazy experiences there. So that was pretty interesting. And then I got recruited. Long story, I have to tell you that one. Then got recruited out of Tulsa to go to Mississippi. And I specifically got a call to go to Mississippi because the for-profit hospital system that had purchased a couple of hospitals down there, several hospitals down there, had purchased a hospital that had been built without an emergency room because it was a certificate of need state. And I was asked to come down. They needed someone who had a master's degree and could work with various different cultures, various different people and backgrounds, because the previous hospital system had separated the Black doctors and the white doctors.
Mm.
This was in 1999.
Wow.
And I think they felt like having a woman of color, person of color, a nurse of color would be able to deal with them having to move those hospitals and those folks back together if they lost the certificate of need. So I thought, hey, I just graduated with a brand new spanking degree in human relations. I'm going to Mississippi. And I did. And that was quite an experience, to say the least. 15 years later, I am now here in California.
Yes. Yes. Wow. 11 years you stayed there, though.
Yeah. No, actually, I was 15 years I was there, I think. 15. Yeah. I transitioned slowly to the East Coast in 2016.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit more about what else do you do, Tanya, because I know you're a pretty dynamic speaker and consultant as well. So what other dreams do you have in your heart?
You know, my biggest goal over the next 5 years is to stand up my medical cannabis therapy program.
Okay.
I believe wholeheartedly that it's necessary for nurses to take the time to learn about medical cannabis. Cannabis is currently now legal in over 30 states across the United States, and individuals are self-medicating with it for all types of varying different reasons. And cannabis impacts our endocannabinoid system in different ways. And as nurses, whether we agree or disagree with its use, it's our obligation to understand its efficacy and how it works on the body, and to be able to coach other clinicians as well as coach patients who choose and select alternative therapies to combat their pain or whatever reason they're medicating. So I've kind of launched myself on this new journey of discovery where, you know, not only am I learning, so I've finished my medical cannabis therapeutic certificate at Pacific College. I'm about to enter a master's program for medical cannabis therapeutics. To complete that program, I'll finish up my doctorate in nursing practice and executive leadership here in about 8 months. And
Wow.
so there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So how, Tanya, did you sustain yourself through this? Now, we know that burnout and everything happened way before 2.5 years ago, but particularly with this double pandemic that we just came through, plus our own personal pandemics. How did Tanya how did you sustain yourself through all of this?
Horses.
Tell us more.
I am very fortunate to be married to a cowboy, and he trains horses for a living. We own 4 beautiful horses of our own. And so one thing about COVID and all of the changes that came about was that the horses are 6 feet long. So you can social distance on the back of a horse. You're outside, right? And so horses are some of the most therapeutic animals when it comes to mental health. And they are capable and able of sensing so many things from humans. And I share with people all the time, a horse can feel a fly land on it, as big as it is. And so for it to be that sensitive, it senses your tension, it senses your anger, it senses your frustrations. And so it causes you, it makes you calm down in order for you to connect in a way that when you're going through a pandemic and you're going through it, you can't just turn it off, right? And so it forced me to have to do that. And so I was so excited to have them. Friends, of course, and family, they were always there by phone. But I learned very quickly that you need a little bit more. You need a little bit more. And sometimes it's those animals that help you.
That's beautiful. Wow. So how many horses do you have?
I have 4 that we own. And then, of course, we're constantly training horses. So we keep on hand anywhere from 6 to 10 at a time.
Wow. And I was reading an article about how horses sync to your heart. And so that's pretty powerful.
They do. If you study heart math and you understand mindfulness, then you do truly have the capability of connecting with a horse in a wonderful way.
Great. So where do you see us headed, Tanya, honestly, with the healthcare industry the way that it is now, with nursing in particular? Where do you think we're headed? Do you feel like our nurses are getting the tools and resources that they need to manage their own life through this crisis?
I think that it's time for us to disrupt nursing. I think that we have functioned in a model of nursing that's been the same for a very long time. And it's time for nurses to recognize the things that they need fundamentally to be happy, fundamentally the things that they need to be confident in the job and who they are, and start that process of reconnecting back to the why. Why did you come into the profession in the first place? And recognize that we are a profession that really is here to command balance.
That's
it's an
good.
expectation. And in order to do that, it requires communication, but communication in a way that allows other people to hear us. We have so many different jobs inside of nursing. We are all responsible for so many different things. And because our jobs don't necessarily always overlap with each other, I always envy physicians who are allowed to work in the field. So like one day they're at the bedside and they're taking care of the patients, right? And then the next minute they're in a suit and they're sitting in an office, making it happen, right? I get jealous because I want to continue that connectivity. I want to have that connectivity to the bedside, to the patients, to the nurses. At the same time, I love being executive. I love being able to make change happen inside of organizations and inside of places and doing things that will help our patients and our nurses. So, I think it's time for us to look really concretely at the model that we have and really figure out, is this the one that we should have in the 21st century? How are we partnering to be able to move care forward? How are we opening the door to a different dialogue with our patients? from an equity, an inclusion, and diversity perspective? What does that look like with our nurses who represent very different cultures and bring a different message to the table, one that hasn't been listened to for many years, hasn't been heard? It's time to shift. It's time to change. And, it's scary. It's scary to me that nurses are getting out, because this is the time to be in. This is it. To be that nurse that 30 years ago, I'm sitting around going, there's nobody who really understands, who really knows me and, looks like me or understands what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and all that, right? And now I'm in an age where people are constantly asking me, well, what do you think? How is this going to impact patients who look like you, patients who look like this person over here? What about this community? What about I'll be honest, Charlene. Sister, I look around every now and again and I'm going, am I going to get fired for that one? I spoke up about that. Because back in the day, you wouldn't have had a job if you opened your mouth, right? So,
no, you're so right.
We're here. This is the time to be in. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when everything happened for me in 2020, and I was so just despondent and just hurt from what happened with George Floyd, that I went into prayer, and then I heard these words: what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future. And so I had to move from like this anguish to action. And that's where I found my voice, Tanya. Yeah. And that's when I start speaking up. And then it was okay. So for 20 years, I was quiet. I was silent. But for some reason, I found my voice, and then I haven't been able to shut up now. So I hear what you're saying, though, because, before, I don't think I would have had the courage to say certain things, because I would have been thinking about, oh, my gosh, I might not have a job tomorrow. But I really appreciate the ability to be able to speak up and actually be listened to.
Right.
So that you can impact change.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah. So it's a good place. It's a good place. So I always ask my guests like 3 wisdom pearls for, let's say, give me 3 wisdom pearls for nurses, for the healthcare profession in particular, that can help them to, it doesn't even have to be when the moment chooses them, but just some wisdom for the times that we're living in right now. What would you encourage them with?
I would encourage nurses to show up with authenticity. At the end of the day, being who you are, being how you are, accepting yourself is first and foremost priority. I think the second thing that I would say is enjoy the moment that you're in. No matter what it is, no matter how it is, whether it's with a patient, whether it's at home with family, enjoy being in that moment. I think the third thing is take time for self. You can't do anything for anybody else if you're not taking time for self.
Yes.
This is one of those professions that you give selflessly all the time to everybody. And it doesn't just stop at work. Everybody knows what you do for a living. So the expectations continue.
Yes.
With family, friends, doesn't matter what your specialty is, because they call you anyway. They ask you the questions, expect you to have the answers. You're sitting over there Googling like everybody else. or you're texting another colleague, tell me about bones. Do you know anything about bones? Tell me what happened, and so, you have to recognize that if you don't take time for yourself to refuel, to really recognize who you are, you're not going to have anything left for anybody else. And there is balance that can be found. I'm that person. Like I go back to Florence. Florence Nightingale. Now, she started all this stuff.
Yes.
And Florence, when I think about it, she had what? Nobody else around her.
Mm-mm.
Crimean War. Not a whole lot to choose from in terms of opportunities, that type of thing. But she changed the lives of so many soldiers. And so when I sit back and I look at me, and I look at me now, same profession, different circumstances, different time, different opportunities, different resources, I have to stop and say, in the midst of all of her crisis, in the midst of all of her pandemic,
right,
she created excellence. That's our model.
Yes.
And so for us to have anything else, we're doing it a disservice. We're doing her work a disservice. So we look at those who paved the way and we say, okay, this is my swine flu. This is my yellow fever. This is my pandemic. And this is what I'm given. These are the resources I have. This is the knowledge I have. This is the education I have. And how am I going to use it to ensure that we continue to evolve excellence inside of nursing so that the next one, when it comes, because it will come.
Yes.
The next one, when it comes, I have set up the next generation of nurses to be able to manage and handle it even better than what we've done. Because I believe we did a fantastic job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really powerful. I just was interviewing someone else and they absolutely said about mentoring, how important it is for us to mentor the next generation. And you are so right. Because quite honestly, just transparently, I remember when I first met you and when I saw you, there was something that went off inside of me because I wasn't quite accustomed to seeing a woman of color in your position. And so it did something in me. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I don't even know what it was that it did, but it was such an inspiration that it makes you want to strive for excellence, to strive for the best, to strive to be in places where you can begin to bring change and transformation and things like that. So I really applaud you, Tanya, for everything that you're doing, the mentor that you are to so many people. We're looking at you. We're excited about where you're going and really the changes that you're actually implementing as you go. And so you made an awesome point just now, and it's powerful if we can really listen to what you said about what Florence Nightingale had to deal with. I mean, how many crises did she deal with at one time? And so we're here. Now, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to shrink? Or are we going to stand up and stand tall and shine? So that's beautiful. So any last minute words of wisdom for our audience, our listening audience?
I think the only thing that I would share is just enjoy being a nurse. Just enjoy being a nurse. Enjoy giving all those wonderful, beautiful things that so many more people, so many other people love about you, choose to have you around for. share those things with the people that you work with. Share those things with our patients that we have chosen to take care of because they deserve it. They deserve it. You know, one day we're all going to be a patient in somebody's hospital somewhere. We're going to be in a clinic, a skilled nursing facility. We're going to be somewhere. And there's going to be a nurse standing there taking care of us. And ideally, we want to be able to look at that person and see the same loving, caring, compassionate, dedicated individual that we were when we chose the profession.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you stopping by and encouraging and inspiring us. And I just wish you well. If someone wanted to reach out to you, are you open for people to reach out to you?
Absolutely.
For any? Okay. How can they reach out to you?
Well, you know, I'm the one that I love to, I text. I'm a text messaging person. So I encourage people to text me, and people say, oh, I can't believe you just give people your phone number. Why not? The bill is big enough that I pay for to have the service. But anyway, yeah, text me at 916-753-0113, or you can always email me. And that email is Tanya, TANYA, at Raymond, RAYMOND, Cannady, CANNADY.com.
Great. And we will make sure we put those, that information in her bio when you get ready to read her information. So thank you again, Tanya. And I believe that you are going to be like one of these world changers. And I'm just like sitting here watching and cheering you on. So keep on, sister. I am really proud of you.
Thank you so much. This is a great podcast. I love it. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.